Sometimes we might want to use another UV coordinates to add more detail. For example, we are painting something on the UV we already made, but we want to make another one for the other texture. And it's really simple. For the presentation purposes, I will use base color and roughness textures made in Substance Painter, but on two separate UV maps. To create another UV map, we need to select our object, then go to the Object Data Properties, and in the UV Maps tab, we can see two UV maps. I named them accordingly to the textures we will use with them. Second UV is just rotated 90 degrees, but you can unwrap it in a totally different way if you want. We can add another one by clicking the plus button and name it, for example, Test UV. So now we have three UVs, but how to access them? Let's go back to the shader editor. You can see that we have a pretty standard setup here. Texture coordinate node, then mapping, and texture and shader. But if you look closely, we can see that the handle and the head look weird. Let's Ctrl-Shift left click on the diffuse texture. Everything looks okay, but when we're doing the same with the roughness texture, it's definitely not mapped properly. It's because the texture coordinate node is not telling the textures which UV should be used for any of these textures. Diffuse is mapped properly because it's the first on the UV maps list, so automatically it's the default one. To use our second UV, we need to add another node called UV map. You can find it in Shift A, Input, and UV map. Here you can choose which UV should be used for what. So let's plug two UV map nodes and choose corresponding UV maps for the base color and roughness. And now everything works. And our test UV has the same coordinates as the one which was selected during creating it, so for us it was the first one. This little camera icon tells us which one is currently used for rendering, what means that it is the one giving the coordinates if they're not specified by the UV map node. Second UVs are often used for adding more details to the textures or for light maps in Unity. For animating UVs, we'll use the cylinder and CG cookie logo. We can see that our texture is bigger than UV of our object, so we'll rescale everything to fit the image size. It's okay to set the size outside UV bounds if you're not using baked textures. I want my image to do not repeat horizontally or vertically, so let's go into Shading tab and in the texture, change the repeat option to clip so the texture won't be repeating itself. Now, animating the UV is super simple. First, let's add the timeline at the bottom. Now, we just need to take the location, rotation, or scale in the mapping node and select the starting value and press I while hovering over it. I will go with the location, so I'll press I while my cursor is above the X value in location. Then I will move the timeline a bit, let's say 30 frames, and I will change the X location again. Then I will go to the 60th frame and change the X location. And lastly, I will copy the first keyframe and jump to frame 90 and just paste them. This way, the animation will loop. And our UV is animated. Another way for animating UVs is using a modifier called UV project. Let's add this modifier to our circle. We see that we need to add a projector object, so we can go with any model we want, but we'll just use empty. So let's add the empty and position it roughly in the center of our object, and using the eyedropper tool, choose it as the object for projection. Our circle changed the color, and it's because we need to scale down our empty. After scaling it down, we can see a cookie and we can animate the empty. Super easy and fun to do. Now it's time for another quiz, this time about unwrapping. Good luck!